Megan Adler here at DCFM 88.9. There we had Neil Diamond, I Am, I Said. We also had The Kinks, Sunny Afternoon with My Sharona by The Knack, and Castles in the Air by Don McLean. It's 9:22 and it's that time of the day, Wednesday, time for Tech Talk with Mr. Matthew Dickerson. Hi Matthew, how are you?
Cool, very formal now, Megan. Mr. Matthew Dickerson. I sound like I'm a bit too old now, don't I?
Oh, certainly not. No, I just like to be proper, professional.
Good work.
How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good.
Oh, that's good.
Good to see a bit of Don McLean playing now. I'm a big Don McLean fan. So when I was on the way up here, I heard Castles in the Air playing. I wonder, it's good Megan's throwing some Don McLean there.
Look, my mother is a massive Don McLean
really?
McLean fan, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I thought, just throw something in there for
I
her.
remember seeing him in Dubbo many years ago. He's at the RSL club in Dubbo about 1,000 years ago.
Really?
So, yeah, it was very cool.
Jeez, how long ago was that?
Yeah, a long time
Oh,
ago.
sorry, that was the wrong question to ask, wasn't
Before
it?
you were born, Megan.
We won't go there. All right, time for Tech Talk, Matthew. You want to have a bit of a chat to me about the hidden surveillance cameras. So what are the rules around hidden cameras in Airbnb rentals, and how can you check your holiday rental for those cameras?
Yeah, it's interesting actually. There was an incident last year where there was a family from New Zealand called the Barkers, and they were over in Ireland on a nice little holiday. They stopped at an Airbnb, and it just so happened that they looked at one of the smoke alarms. They thought, that looks just a bit funny, a bit different. There's something not quite right about that, and they kind of researched a bit further. In the end, they found photos or images of themselves live streaming on the net of themselves in this particular holiday apartment.
Oh, you're
so
joking.
they contacted the owners. Obviously, they weren't very happy about it, and the owners weren't very, I suppose, accommodating in that whole process. So they ended up just moving out of there because they thought it wasn't a great process. But in general, yes, you need to be notified if there are surveillance cameras there, but that's relying on people being honest and doing
forthcoming.
the right thing. That's right.
Exactly.
So I've got a few little tips there. People might be going away at the moment. They might be getting a chance to get away, probably only in New South Wales, but probably getting away somewhere. And when you get to your holiday home, if you're a bit worried about it, there's a few little things to look out for. The first thing, as the Barkers noticed, is if you've got something in there that looks not quite right. So some of the surveillance cameras now are so good, they're little tiny pinholes. But if you see a clock hanging on a wall, for example, in a funny spot, or you just see a little hole on the clock face, it doesn't need to be big. I'm talking about a few millimetres in
Well,
size.
that's the technology now,
That's the
isn't
technology,
it? How
that's
small
right.
the cameras can be.
Smoke alarms, sprinkler heads. If you see a funny sprinkler head that looks just a little bit different, that can have a pinhole camera in it. So look out, that's the first tip, I suppose. Look out for some things that look a bit different. A clock, for example, pick it up off the wall, have a look at the back of it, and if there's the clock mechanism and then something else on there as well, maybe there's a camera there.
That's when there's a sign that something's not quite
Yeah,
right.
that's right. The other thing is when you look at your Wi-Fi, you connect to the Wi-Fi at a holiday place, just look at other names of things there. It might actually show up a name of another device, like IP camera might be a bit of a giveaway, for example. Because often the IP cameras are Wi-Fi, not cabled in. So it might be something along those lines. Or Bluetooth as well. You can go searching for items on Bluetooth. But the other thing is a PowerPoint. Look for the PowerPoints, and if there's any leads plugged into a PowerPoint,
Follow
just
the leads.
follow the lead. Exactly right. So if you're in the bathroom, for example, and there's a lead plugged in, you think, why would a lead need to be plugged into the bathroom? I'll follow. Oh, look over here. There's a little camera over here.
camera.
So yeah, obviously you would hope none of this happens, but unfortunately it is happening. Some of the landlords or owners would say they're doing it to protect their property. Some of them have got some maybe different motives.
I was going to say, there's a difference between protecting your property. You would think, like we have surveillance cameras outside,
Correct.
as opposed to ones in your bathroom.
That's
Why do
right.
you need a surveillance camera in your bathroom?
Exactly right, yeah. So I suppose be on the lookout for it. Don't be paranoid about it, but there are some examples where these sort of things happen. So just have a look around, just talk to the owners and have a conversation around those things if you need to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's a good tip. And
Yeah,
it's a
big
bit
creep,
scary,
isn't
isn't
it?
it? Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah.
So especially during the light of the COVID pandemic, I assume there's a lot of technology that's catching up with the way we handle food or the way we do things. Can you talk to me about how to open your fridge in a COVID-safe way?
Well, look, there are some fridges now that are pretty advanced in their technology, internet-connected fridges, of course, but LG has just announced a fridge that you can just walk up and say, open the refrigerator door, and it will open the refrigerator door for you. So it saves all those grimy fingerprints being all over the nice front of the fridge, which might just look terrible in normal times, but obviously in COVID times, we don't want to touch things as much as possible.
Exactly.
You've also got the ability in some modern fridges, for example, this example here, where you've got a glass front on the fridge. So every time you open the fridge, have a look, have we got milk, for example, what's in the fridge, close the fridge door. It then has to cool down the fridge from that bit of heat that's coming in the fridge. So with this particular fridge, you can tap on the door and it's got a transparent window on the front, but it'll light up inside. inside so you can actually see what's inside. It doesn't run the light all the time because obviously that will be wasting power, but it lights up with a tap on the door and you can see what's inside there and away you go.
I have to admit, one of my little quirks I love doing when I go into JB Hi-Fi or even Good Guys, I like to go and have a play with those doors where you knock on them and they light up and you can see. It's a bit of a wishful thinking on my part. Like one day I'll own one of these.
Fridges at what good stores. It's good. I like it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and especially with the your voice command, I like that because often when I'm overestimating how much I can take to the fridge and thinking I don't have a hand to open this door, that's a lazy girl in me who would love to do
like
that.
It. The other thing this fridge does is actually has a UV bacteria remover as part of its water output. So a lot of fridges now you can actually just get water out of them and that's fine, but that water might sit there for a while, it might create a bit of bacteria, or not create bacteria, but allow bacteria to breathe there. So this removes bacteria. 99.99% LG claims will remove bacteria in the water component of the fridge. Obviously water coming from somewhere else could have something in it still,
course, yep.
but in the fridge itself it'll remove 99% of the bacteria.
That's really good filtration technology right there. I like that.
I can't tell you a price on that fridge though, Megan. At the moment it's only been announced and they haven't actually given a price, so I imagine it's just a couple of dollars.
Yeah, just a couple of dollars, yeah, no, for sure. I actually just bought myself a new Hisense fridge over the weekend with the French double doors and all that, but you know what, I'm starting to slightly regret that choice after what you've just told me. LG is the way to go, folks.
Yeah.
Now, moving on, what popular app might stop working after the 1st of January if I have an older phone?
Well, unfortunately, this is one of the problems you see with lots of things, but WhatsApp at the moment is used by a couple of billion people around the world. And if you've got an older phone, and I'm talking about a fairly old phone, if you've got a phone maybe the last 4 or 5 years, it's probably going to be okay. If you've got a really old phone and you've got iOS in the Apple operating system of 9 or earlier, or in the Android operating system, if you've got 4.0.3 or earlier, then you'll have a problem with WhatsApp where it will no longer work. The updates that are going through in WhatsApp from the 1st of January will mean that those older operating systems won't allow it to work.
So does that mean when you open the app, it just doesn't open at all, or it lags or glitches?
It won't open. It'll try and open and then it'll just close straight away. So it won't even allow you to open it and try and use it and then find that it fails. It just won't open. And it will probably even give you a message to say that unfortunately the operating system you're using is too old for this particular app to operate. And this is just part of the process to update apps, so make sure they've got the latest features on them, make sure it can do all the latest things. The good news is that you'd probably have to have a phone, for example, in the Apple world, if you've got an iPhone 4 or earlier, which there's not many earlier than 4.
No, I don't think I've seen one of those in a very long time, probably since high school.
Then it won't work on that. But people often have later phones, but they just don't do updates. So, for example, you might have an iPhone 8 and you haven't updated it for a while, then you might not find that WhatsApp works. But again, it's just a matter of updating your iOS or updating your operating system on whichever phone you might have.
Love that, love that. Now, speaking about phones and technology and internet, how does the government plan to reduce internet trolling? Can you talk to me a bit about that?
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a bit less trolling, wouldn't it?
Oh, I hate it. And look, as a journalist in the studying of myself, just trolls, I hate it.
Yeah.
It's just, let's just remove the negativity. Let's be a bit more positive in this 2020 year we've had. Coming into 2021, tell me about the plans to reduce this horrible internet trolling that we've got going on.
So the government's talking about and it's not law yet, this is just a proposal at this stage, a $111,000 fine. I'm not sure how they came up with the number, 111000. I don't know if they like the ones and zeros there, but that's the potential fine as an individual that you might suffer if you put something up and then you're asked to remove it and you don't remove it. So it's not, as soon as you put it up, then bang, you have a fine. If you put something up and then there's an e-safety commissioner and he will say, please Megan, remove that, we don't like what you've said there, and if you say get stuffed, then you might be subject to a fine of $111,000. Yeah.
Look, that's enough to scare me into just not touching it.
And in the past, there's always been the option for someone to sue someone for defamation, but that's a long process. And in my opinion, the only winners out of someone being sued are the solicitors.
I was just about to say, the lawyers are only the ever winners. And the ever winners, you get what I mean?
Yeah,
only the winners out of that scenario.
So this might be, because it's a government-imposed fine, not someone where they've got to sue, this might be something that discourages a little bit. Unfortunately, as you would know, as soon as you put something online, the e-safety commissioner could say take it down straight away. It only needs to be up there for minutes, hours maybe, and it might have gone viral. So even though it might have been removed from your site, it might have gone elsewhere. But at least there's something there where the government's saying, you know what, this isn't appropriate behaviour for people in our community. It's not along the lines of community standards, so let's try to do something about it.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think it's going to solve all the problems overnight, but I think at least sends a message.
Bit of a deterrent.
Yeah, maybe you should be thinking about things before you go and post things. If you're going to say something, think about it. And my logic is, if I wouldn't say it to your face, then I wouldn't write it on an online forum.
Exactly.
Or comment,
and I think a lot of people out there are struggling who do regularly troll or spread a bit of negativity on social media, do struggle with that idea that just because they're removed from the situation, they're operating through a screen, that it doesn't have the same impact as it would, say, if you'd said it to that person in person.
Yeah.
You know, I would never do that, so what makes it right to do it through a screen? So
Yeah.
I agree. I think, you know, the number's funny, 111000.
Yeah, no, I'm sure about that.
But it's a big number, and I think it's big enough to scare us into being a bit more positive in the way
Hopefully.
we interact with others on
Yeah.
social media. About cars. We're moving on from phones to fridges, back to cars. I love this. Your electric car. Forget finding a charging station for your electric car, folks. Why not let a charging station find you? Can you talk to me about this?
Yeah, so Volkswagen is really, after their whole Dieselgate scandal, they're trying to chase the market where they want to be able to be seen to be doing the right thing. And so they've got a prototype version of a little charging robot. So effectively you put into a parking station. At the moment you go to parking stations, you find the electric chargers wherever they might be. You park your car there, plug in, do your shopping or stay at the motel, whatever it might be, and then you come out the next morning and unplug and away you go. But Volkswagen has an idea that that's all too much trouble for people. So why not just park your car wherever you want to park your car in the parking station, activate a call for a charging robot, and it picks up a little battery pack, drags it to your car, robotically plugs it in and charges your car, and then when it's either finished charging or you come back from doing your shopping or whatever you've done, it then unplugs and away it goes. So the idea is make it more convenient for electric vehicle owners. Because at the moment, I mean, I've got 3 electric vehicles and I find them quite convenient, but some people, it's a major drama to have to find somewhere to plug their car in. So let's remove that impediment and let's make it incredibly easy for people to use their electric car.
And unlike some people who probably aren't quite as tech savvy as yourself, like me, technology just bewilders me every time. Going from having to go from your fuel to your electric, is it an easy transition, or is it like, you know, is it easy to get the hang of? It's not like, you know, fueling up and then plugging in to charge. I'd say one of them's a lot easier than the other.
Well, I actually find electric vehicle charging much easier because most of the time I just charge at home. So I'll drive my car for as long as I need to drive, and I notice it's getting a bit low, so I'll just plug in and I get up the next morning and it's ready to go. So I find I don't have to waste all that time stopping at a petrol station, lining up maybe, plugging in, holding the Bowser there for 4 or 5 minutes, walking in, paying for all that process. I find so cumbersome now, whereas electric vehicle charging is much easier.
Much more convenient.
On a trip is where sometimes people get a bit concerned about electric vehicle charging because I'm driving 1,000 kilometres for holidays, I'm going up to see someone up the coast and, oh no, I've got to find a charger somewhere. But I normally just look at where the charging stations are and then find somewhere that I can maybe stop and have lunch, because it's probably safe to stop on a 1,000 kilometre trip somewhere on the way to charge the vehicle rather than just go all the way and have a 5-minute break for petrol and then keep going. So that whole idea of having a break, a regular break and charging up and then doing something like having a coffee, doing a bit of shopping, having lunch, whatever it might be. So you just need to plan it, but the reality is the number of times, especially at the moment, that you do 1,000 kilometre trips compared to 5 kilometre trips, then electric vehicles during COVID are absolutely perfect because we are driving less at the moment and we're certainly driving a lot less in terms of those longer trips in one go.
Definitely. Well, I mean, New South Wales is still very big and we still have a lot to go from one end to the other if that we are that way inclined. But you are right. I found myself, I'm driving much less than I was pre-COVID, let's just say. But just quickly before we go, I wanted to ask, how long do you find that you have to charge your electric cars? Like, is it every night, every few nights? Like, what's the charging like?
There's different. So we've got one of our electric cars got a range of about 630 kilometres, one's got about 550 and the other one's got about 300. So again, it depends how far you're driving. So the 300 one is mainly used by my daughter, and so she goes to school or goes downtown. So she might get a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks out of it because she's not doing a lot of kilometres. Again, it depends on what you're doing. It's the same as petrol in the tank. You might get a week out of a tank of petrol, you might get 2 days out of a tank of petrol, depending on how often or how far you're driving. But the reality is you've just got a little gauge on the screen, just the same as your mobile phone, shows you how much charge you've got, either percentage or in kilometres, or in some cases both, and so you just watch when it gets down low and then just plug it in that night and the next day away you go. So
just like a fuel gauge tells you, folks, on a normal car when you have to fill up with fuel.
That's about it.
Not much of a big transition in that sense, I'd say.
No, that's right.
Look, it is time to finish up. Thank you so much for coming in, Matthew. I really appreciate it. I've learned something new today, and I'm looking out for LG fridges now.
Good work.
It is 25 to 10 here at DCFM 88.9.